pull out. Scrubbing. Yep. Now, beautiful. Beautiful. Work it. All right. Fender on. All right, well, today we are back to work on the first gen no prep RX7 build. We are cruising right along with this thing. We got our LT from LME fully mounted up. We got our mid plate done, sorted. We got our motor plate done, mounted, motor plate mounts, everything. The engine is in there. It is official. It's sitting on its own fruition. It's hanging out. So now it's time to move on to the power adder, because everything else is going to kind of fall in place around the power adder. Now, there is a lot of debate around this. We considered every possibility, from turbos to nitrous to single turbo to supercharger, but throughout all that, there was one that just always stuck out as being the most logical option for this car, the best for packaging, the best for power management, the best for making power, the best for making it fast, just the overall most potent combination for this chassis, this setup, and what we are trying to do. And we decided, if we're gonna build this car, we're gonna go all the way. We're gonna try to make this thing as fast and as competitive as possible. If we're gonna go all the way, there's really only one answer in terms of a power adder, and it's in these boxes right over here. All right, guys, before we get too deep into today's video, I wanted to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Factor. So I have been using Factor literally for years now, because when I found it, it was like the magic light bulb moment, end all be all solution for me. You know, every other option had its caveats. Takeout's expensive, plus generally not that good for you. Going to the grocery store to come home to cook a meal, it's not really feasible. Could maybe make it work for a couple days, but not long term. Schedule wise, I'm out here in the shop all the time working. And that's why Factor has just been so incredible, because with Factor, you get fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to your door that are ready in 2 minutes. 2 minutes flat. So whenever I wrap up out here, which again, normally late, go inside, boom, 2 minutes later, I've got my meal. I don't have to try to plan all this out around when it's gonna be here or when it's gonna be done or making it. 2 minutes. That's it. That's all I need. 2 minutes. If I'm out here and I'm hungry and I want some lunch, 2 minutes. And I got my lunch. And it's good, real quality food, delicious recipes. It's unbeatable, which is literally why I've been using it for years now, because I've yet to find anything that comes anywhere close to checking all those boxes. So if you're interested in trying it out for yourself, head to factor75.com and use code 50TaylorDrifts to get 50% off your first Factor box. It's a great deal and a great way to try it out and just see firsthand how you like it, how you like the recipes, how much time it saves you. Once you get that convenience back and that time back, it's hard to go back. So anyway, that being said, huge thank you to Factor for sponsoring today's video, but we've got a lot to do to see if all this is going to work. So let's get to it. All right. Yeah, bring it over, put it on. All right, well, this is a Procharger setup, but it's not a standard Procharger setup, which you've probably seen before, which is also a great setup. But for this car, this is a race car. So, this is a race car Procharger. I've actually never seen one of these not on the vehicle in person.
Assembly line.
Yeah, the unboxing assembly line. Oh, this is, hold on, can you guys see? Before we take the last piece of foam out. Come on, get over here, get over here.
Oh, don't let them see. No, we gotta see first.
All right. Whoa. Oh,
wow.
Woo. Dude. All right, next box. Box number 2. There's definitely something in there. More oil.
Pamphlet. I'll hold on to the pamphlet. Paperwork.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is where the real magic happens. Yeah, there we go. That's the race drive right there.
I want to just see him do it. It's essentially a quick change.
Oh, yeah.
It looks just like a quick change. It's crazy.
Real race car components. All right, everyone take a paper bag. What do we got? What's your Christmas present?
I got brackets.
Oh, I got a blow-off valve. Big old blow-off.
I want to walk out. What am I gonna bracket?
Yeah, look at how big that blow-off valve is. We're gonna have 2 of these.
Oh wow.
Monster.
Oh, I got one too.
Oh,
That's
you got a
gonna
blow-off
start-
valve for this game too. Oh, here we go. We got a bracket for alternator. I think. Yeah, I think that's like our crank pulley.
Here you go. This is the
All right, there you go.
Bracket pulley. Oh wow.
Oh man.
Oh,
Ooh, bro.
that's how you know it's official.
That's it.
Oh, it's upside down, but
You get it.
wow.
And it's aluminum.
So, crank drive Procharger. Most people that run Prochargers, you run it off a belt drive, which works great. Packaging wise, in a lot of cars also, it's great. And they make great power. There's a lot of benefits with the Procharger as far as power management. You know, it's gonna make the same boost all the time, boost by RPM. So power wise, we can detune it or pull power out with just timing. There's a lot, we'll go over all that. But one of the big things with the Procharger is this crank drive system. So this is the race drive, crank drive. So basically, instead of having a belt system and having the Procharger, say, mounted here with a big cog belt going up to it, this is going to be directly off the crankshaft through the gearbox to the Procharger. Couple cool things here. We can change the gear ratio to change blower speed and effectively boost and all that. Also, there's no belt to worry about slipping or tearing up a belt. And for us, especially for this car, packaging wise, it's pretty hard to beat with the space we've got. We don't have a lot of upward space. We don't have a ton of left or right space, but we have a lot of forward space. And that's pretty much where this thing's gonna go. So yeah, that is a massive unit. It's so big. This thing is huge. So yeah, we gotta kind of make sense of all the parts and pieces. We've got 2 race ball valves because being that it's a Procharger attached directly to the crank, if we pedal it, we need to be able to relieve all that boost. So we have 2 massive ball valves to relieve that pressure. We've got an alternator drive bracket set up with belt and everything, so we can run our alternator off the same crank drive that's turning the Supercharger. When we first decided to build this car, this was like the first thing that came to mind. You know, these Procharger setups have been absolutely dominating no prep for the very reasons I just explained. You know, with the turbo setup, sometimes you pull timing to reduce power, but then you inadvertently create more boost, and different weather, different temperatures are gonna make different power numbers. There's a lot of things there with a turbo setup, whereas with the Supercharger, it's literally purely timing. If you pull timing out, you're gonna make less power, less RPM, less boost, less of everything. So tuning this thing to go down bad surfaces, which is where we're trying to go racing, perfect. And with this engine, the Procharger, we should be comfortably at our starting around 12 to 1300 wheel power goal. And then we can go up from there. The other thing here is like we've got turbo LS. We've done the turbo LS thing, and I mean, it works great, but I really wanted to try a different avenue with this car, and I do think this is gonna be the most competitive that we could make this car. Yeah, I'm really interested too to see how it works. You know, I've seen there's so much success with the Procharger with like the big block, big tire guys, and I'm curious to see how it works on a smaller LT engine. Something I've learned when it comes to getting kits of a bunch of car parts, especially something as elaborate as this, is it's good to take the time to kind of check over everything you have, make sure you got everything that's supposed to be there, and that you're not missing anything that you might need. And we have some things to figure out. All right, well, we've been going through everything. There's a couple of unknowns going into this that we knew we were going to have to figure out, and that's what we're working out. So the two main unknowns, one is the crank pulley. You have to buy a specific Innovators West crank pulley to work with the crank drive setup. The LS version has magnets, so it has like a magnetic pickup built in, so you can run an aftermarket crank pickup, which would be really neat and handy. The LT one doesn't have that, so we're trying to see if we can make the LS one work on the LT so we can get those advantages of the magnetic pickup. Thing 2, dry sump pump. Mounting and driving. That's the biggest thing that I was concerned about going into this, is if we'd be able to easily drive this dry sump pump, because alternator wise, that's sorted. They have a whole alternator kit. We got this pulley that's gonna go basically within the drive system of the Procharger. This pulley goes on the alternator, belt, brackets, simple. However, generally to drive the dry sump pump or like mechanical fuel pump, you have to use this accessory arm, and it's a V-band flange, which is really neat, but our pump doesn't have that V-band flange, which means we would have to get a different pump or modify our pump. So we did some digging, some tinkering, and we decided to take apart the pulley system for the front here. This is what bolts onto the ATI damper, which spins the belt, which spins the dry sump pump. And lo and behold, Raldo just got here and he doesn't even know that we figured this out. We've been all laboring over this since last night, trying to figure out a solution. Fits perfect. So we should be able to drive the dry sump pump. I mean, this is the exact pulley that was driving it, so the ratio will stay the same. Off of this, and then all we basically got to do is just bracket it to mount it, just basically like it is now, but it'll be mounted off and driven off of the gearbox instead of directly off the crank.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. We took 5 minutes to figure this out. Definitely not since last night. 5 minutes. So anyway, that's a big thing because I really want to retain this pump. I don't want to have to switch to a different pump because this is a really nice Fluid Works dry sump pump, 6-stage, high vacuum, high return. Like, it's a really nice beast of a pump. We should be good there. So the next step in crossing our T's, dotting our I's, is to basically mount everything. Now, the crank pulley we still don't have because we're still trying to see if we can make that LS1 work so that way we get extra features. We're trying to use the features, you know? I'd still up in the air, but it doesn't matter because we'll just leave the coupler off and just bolt everything up, and we'll see what our stack height is, you know, how everything looks, how the supercharger fits, where we would maybe want to clock it, what we can fit between there and there, if the hood fits, all of that. There's a lot of unknowns. And to do that, we basically got to take everything off. We got to go a little backwards so we can go forwards. But I'm real eager after deliberating this to see what this absolute monstrosity of a supercharger looks like on there with the full crank drive setup. It's gonna look pretty snazzy, so let's get to work. So we took the mandrel for our dry sump pump that we have currently off, so that way we'd have room for everything to go on, you know, just without the coupler. Again, this stuff's got to go on and come off so many times. Sometimes you get wrapped up in wanting to put it on once, but guaranteed you'll have to take it off and put it back on. So this is a great opportunity for us to test fit this. Now, this bracket system kind of comes with its own motor plate setup, so we're not going to be reusing our motor plate, which is kind of a shame. Put a lot of time into making that motor plate fit, but there was still some complications with that motor plate and the dry sump pump itself and the fittings and all of that. You know, we had to use smaller fittings to get that return to fit without completely hacking up the motor plate. And I'm not mad at having to or getting the opportunity to change over to a different motor plate style. You know, I much prefer a nice thick machine pocketed motor plate to the standard kind of 1/4 inch aluminum motor plate because they just don't have a lot of front to rear rigidity. And between our mid plate, which is super stout, and our new Procharger motor plate, this thing, it ain't going nowhere. So we got the first mount on, and it's basically like billet Legos, honestly. You know, you got the dowels that offset to then the crank drive gearbox, and just seeing those pieces on the engine is wild. All right, well, this is what it looks like so far. We've got basically the main brackets. These will now become our motor plate, which they kind of work out perfect to line up with the bar. So we'd normally have the correct pulley and the coupler there, which would go to that. So this is the coupler. So you've got basically dowels and then rubber pieces here. So there's a little bit of shock isolation, and then there's shoulder bolts that are gonna go here. This would go, it would bolt onto the front of the damper and then go right in there. But as you can see, our damper sticks out too far. But we're not using that right now, so basically in neutral. With the crank drive system in place, it is time for the pièce de résistance, the supercharger itself. So we've got this billet backing plate that is going to mount it to the crank drive system, and then the same dowels. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward to bolt this piece on. Wow.
Yeah, wow was right.
How are you feeling now?
That is all Procharger.
Looks insane, dude.
That's all Procharger.
That is insane. That's wild, dude. What a sight. There's more Procharger than there is engine. Look at that, dude. So much billet, too. So yeah, basically how this works is obviously, again, correct crank pulley, then that coupler goes there, spins this spline gear here. Then there's our gear case. So this allows us, we could take this off and then change the gears in here. to change blower speed. Then there's another guibo here, that piece that goes on here to the spline shaft, and then that spins this, and then that spins your blower. And then our alternator pulley, for example, will go on this piece here. And then the idea is that we could put the dry sump off of this, because this spins same as engine speed, in line with the crankshaft, and then put our dry sump pump. Probably have to tuck it down some, but it'd have to be so far forward that it would actually kind of work out and locate. Let's actually see. Let us see. I guess if we dropped it like that, then
Serviceability ideally doesn't break one.
yeah, like we break a dry sump belt, we kind of got bigger problems.
Wow.
Wild. It's so ridiculous.
It's big. It's really big.
Do we leave it like this and try to put the hood on, or do we go ahead and reclock it before we try to put the hood on?
How reclocked are you trying to go? Would you feed it from the bottom into it? Like if you clocked it this way, feed into the intercooler? Or
Yeah, well, we
something
can do the
like
intercooler, how, like, we could
Up
have like
there?
the air to water core here to where it comes in here and then goes out there if we wanted to. Because it'd be like in tank. It's just like one comes in sideways and one goes out horizontal or whatever. Watch your going. Action. Bring it over me. Bring it over!
Will it go past the wheels?
No, you kind of got to go up a little. Like you kind of did. Yep. And then down. Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah? Oh yeah. Oh wow, that is
I
nice.
got like a ½ inch, and dude, it is in such a perfect spot.
Dude, that's nice.
Yeah, we'll have to redo this to be straddle it. And then big old hole to the bell mouth. But yeah, no, we've got like a ½ inch above this as it's clocked right now. Okay, so front bracket 5 1/4, and then 6 on that other side of that, and then middle bracket 8 1/2. 7. Motor plate is 10 inches. Take a gander. So obviously we'll have to cut our air hole. Oh, can you see in there? Oh, that's a nice way to look in there. Look at that. Look at that. That bar is like right in the way, that support bar. So we'll have to, basically do a new support bar on either side of the lower, but freaking snug as a bug in a rug. It does fit so perfect. This is one of the many reasons we wanted to go with the race drive was packaging. Trying to fit this big old blower up there would be hard in this particular car. We got all this room up here and we're using it. We've actually even got some clearance without caulking it, to the outlet, which obviously would be caulking this back some, the pipe would kind of go, over that way anyway. But yeah, that's what it looks like from underneath. And height-wise, it worked out perfect with this bar. That was another concern of mine. Now our motor plate spot is like almost perfectly in line with this tube. To fit the dry sump here though, we'll have to get a little creative with that tube. Have to cut those off obviously, but it's nice to have it all in one. The motor plate built into the bracketry for the Supercharger. It's so wild looking. All the billet. So much billet. Wild. Oh, take it off. You gotta give it a little. So now that we know that the Supercharger and the crank drive, the whole system is going to fit with the hood, and we're going to be able to make it fit. It's not going to cause any interference really anywhere. It's time to get it secured. So we just did the old clamp method until we build our new motor mount stanchions basically. And then we started playing around with the idea of putting an air to water intercooler in, which would allow us, would make a lot of things simpler. Still a debate. We're just taking turns visualizing visualize the win. So as you can see, as demonstrated by Josue here, the helmet, he would just clear that bar. So for me, with my helmet, it fits kind of in between the two parts. So that is one of the big things we got to do is we got to redo that hoop, the front part of the hoop, because the seat is as low as it can go. Like the butt of it is on the top of the tubes. It ain't going any lower. But yeah, we're working out all of the odds and ends, you know, when it comes to building a race car. It sounds so simple and straightforward. Like, oh, just put an engine in, drivetrain, wire it up, fire it up. But there's a lot more, you know. If we got to get a rack, which Aldo figured out it's a Pinto rack, so we're going to get that ordered. We need a new shaft for the steering shaft there. Pedals got to move some because it's set up for a clutch. And gas pedals, like, from what I remember when we mocked the transmission up, it's like right on top of the transmission. So we got to at least shift it over. There's a lot of little things. Moral of the story. But we're chugging away. Who put all those Allens back? Who told them that they could go home for the day? Definitely was not me. I would never do such a thing. I told them to stay.
You're here, you're working.
Whoosh. Whole rig. I missed the disembarkment. Yeah, it's so wild. I'm really excited about this intercooler plan. We build ourselves a nice fancy air to water. We can run methanol, or ethanol, which is looking feasible. I was hoping that, you know, once this all played out, that there would be room here to build a nice little air to water, and it's looking good for that. So,
All good things, like you said.
all good things, dude. It's looking good. All right, one thing we need to get taken care of while we're thinking about it is walking off our direct injection ports. Coming right up. This is one of those things that I almost forgot we needed to do, and I finally remembered to order the parts, and now it's time to install them, because even though we don't need these installed right now, if we forget, then we're going to be trying to start this thing and not understanding why it doesn't run or tries to go rev to the moon when we start it up. So these basically just block off the factory direct injection ports so that, you know, because we're not going to be using those. They're completely irrelevant to us. So just got those installed so that way it's one less thing we've got to remember on the checklist. Now, what we want to do is get a kind of current weight of the car, see where we're at weight-wise, if we're going to be anywhere close to our goal. Now, to do that, we could just kind of toss everything in the car, but we're actually going to put all of these interior panels back on and in place, because just as, if not more important than the total weight, is our weight balance, especially for what we're doing. You know, just the difference between a radial drag car, X275 car's weight balance, and front side no prep is pretty big. And then when you go to the backside stuff, which is where we'd like to start and what we're most interested in, it's a really big difference. So getting our weight balance right is gonna make or break this build. If we have poor weight balance, we don't get enough rear bias, we're gonna have a really hard time making this thing work. So we need to see where we're at weight-wise and especially balance-wise. All right, well, we got all of the panels back in. All the ones we have, except for this large one that goes on the bottom. Even got the window net in place for the first time. It's nice to see it looking like a car again inside. Also peeped the magnetic koozie, garageboatco.com. Yeah, so I got to put the doors on, put the front end on, which means we got to take the intake back off.
We put it inside the car or something.
Yeah, but we need the balance. That thing's got some weight. We could set it on the hood with some foam. So yeah, we'll do that. Take the intake off. Oh, but I bolted it on already. Idiot. Basically everything we have for the car, we're gonna try to put on and just get a, at this point, weight. That way we, A, know how feasible our goal of, you know, being around 2,000 pounds flat without me in it is, and B, where our weight's at currently, where our balance is, thus how much moving things around we need to do. How, you know, because it's a lot more work to put certain things in the back, like the fuel tank. We could fit one up front and mechanical fuel pump, and it's simple, but obviously for no prep, we're gonna need as much rear bias as we can get, so we probably have to put it in the back, and there's more lines and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of factors. It also depends on what fuel we decide to go with, whether it's methanol, if we wanna start with ethanol and do the intercooler. There's so many things. So, good way to find out which route we should go on all those things is to figure out where we're at weight balance-wise.
Can't lose any bolts.
Beautiful. Pop it off there. Pop it off. Feel that thing. It's a chunk. Tell you that much.
Not as bad as I thought, though.
Oh.
Big of a chunk as it is.
So the goal here is to get everything that we have that we kind of know roughly where it's going to go in place, like the dry sump pump, where it's roughly going to go, the mock-up transmission in place. That's a big thing, big heavy piece of weight. You know, obviously getting things like the doors back on and all of that, and then the hood back on, the intake on top of that. Now, this isn't perfect. It's not going to tell us exactly what the weight balance is, but it gives us a general idea. You know, we really need to know where we're at balance-wise to know what kind of build philosophy to go with a lot of these things. With building a race car, man, there is no silver lining option. It's pros and cons all the way, and you got to just determine which cons you're willing to live with for which pros. So we got the scales out. The last time we used them was to weigh this car as a bare chassis, which it weighed 1,050, and the last time we used them, it had issues with the battery, so we had to get a little creative and make a new battery setup. Luckily, I had some pins that worked to pin onto the board because the connector was corroded all the way up there, and we can run those out and hook these alligator clips up to a 9-volt battery, and hopefully we should be in business.
I sent you one.
They're all plugged in? Oh wait, it says this battery's low.
Keep messing around, about to get heated with 18.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
I mean, I could use those alligator clips.
Nuke to Saturn here in a minute.
Okay, we are officially zeroed. For anyone who does not believe.
Believers.
All right, lift her up. All right, set her down. Okay, we're off. 1626 currently. And what are we? Front bias, 56.6% front, 43.3% rear. 200 pounds heavier in the front. So if we added nothing else and put 200 pounds in the rear, oh my goodness. This is driving me nuts. I'm gonna try the M12 battery. Since these scales are meant to work with 2 9-volt batteries, the one wasn't cutting it, so we're just gonna skip straight to using a Milwaukee M12. We wanted to use the M18, but that might be a little too spicy for it.
Zap.
Yeah, honestly, I'll just get one of these plugs and just crimp these to one of these connectors, and I can just plug it in. Okay, let's try this again.
Take 3.
Set her back down.
Action.
We're at the same numbers, now it won't be yelling at us the whole time. I mean, it's honestly not terrible for having a lot of the stuff that goes in the front and nothing of the stuff that goes in the rear.
It's like if you sat in there, where would that put it?
Yeah, we can do that. Take a picture for me.
1854, and we're at 51% now.
Cross.
51%
Cross,
No, that's
sorry,
cross.
hold on.
Front 54% front, rear 45, left 54, right 45.
Pretty much what we figured.
But it's definitely,
Yeah,
still seems like a doable goal.
I think it's doable,
It's still
and
very
worst case, like 21 to 2200.
And then keep shifting the weight back and right.
Yeah, as much back there as we can put. So we had, if out of the 400 pounds, 300 of it goes towards the rear, and we'll be at least 50-50, which would be great. Pretty good. All right, well, that's that. I mean, I'm pretty happy with those numbers. It's always, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest with you. Should have probably tried to expect something to see if we were close or not. But for how much stuff we have in this thing, having the transmission in there, having all that stuff on the hood, you know, the nice thing is that we're still only 56.5 front, which obviously would be bad, but most of the weight that's still yet to go on can and will go in the rear. So we should be able to get our bias where we want it. I think optimal, I mean, it depends. It's because, you know, if we do backside no prep, then we want more rear bias, but if we want to do front side stuff, then that rear bias is going to hurt us. So I think if we could get to 50-50, which seems realistic, that would be perfect, because then we can add weight to the rear for the backside stuff, take it out, or add a tiny bit to the front for front side stuff, or even prep stuff. So that's good. I think we're in a good spot. You know, we've got 400 pounds more we can add in stuff before we hit our 2,000 pound target. And that's the goal. And I mean, you know, stuff adds up, but it definitely seems feasible considering how much stuff's on there now. So really happy with that. Super happy with that. And honestly, it always feels so cool to see this thing back with all the panels on it and now sitting on the ground, knowing, I mean, no intake, right? We got to cut the hood for the intake, but knowing the whole engine and Procharger setup's in there right now. It looks like the same as the day we bought it, except it's got a whole lot more stuff inside of it. But yeah, so that being said, that's pretty much a wrap for this one. We've got a few parts ordered. We got our direction. There was kind of a lot of unknowns going into this, a lot of unknowns. And now that we've got those figured out, we can really start, you know, put it on cruise control. And also, the other day, we went to a backside no prep at OSW. They only do it once a year, but there's another track opening up that we're actually going drifting this weekend with the vet at. To check it out, and they're supposed to be doing no prep, like real cool setup with a street light and whatever, but we went to a backside no prep. It was actually the first one I've been to in person, and it was awesome. He's all-wheel drive though. See, that's what I wish this truck was, all-wheel drive. It got me so hyped up and excited to finish this car out and go join them. It's hard for me to watch something like that and not want to participate in some way, shape, or form. So I'm excited. I'm ready to get this thing done, and hopefully we can get it done in the next month or two. So it's an optimistic goal, but hey. So anyway, for now, that's going to be it. Oh, any closing thoughts?
Thank you.
You've had some time to think about it.
Thank you guys for sticking around, for the support.
Oh yeah,
Check out Garage Build Co. for some merch. Old way, but we got new ones coming.
Yeah, we got new stuff on the way.
New stuff
in progress.
It's coming. This way.
That's a wrap.
I like it. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Let me know what you think of the setup, the decision, the Procharger, the fitment, all the things. And yeah, can't wait to see you next time. Goodbye, guys.